Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Sean's Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you tuning in today. To everyone who has been subscribing and liking the videos, commenting, sharing the videos, sharing the posts on social media. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate the support. You guys are amazing. Love the horror community. Today, we're going to be talking about an old school slasher. Been doing that a lot lately, I feel like, but we're going to continue that today. And we're going to be talking about 1981's The Prowler. Um, I had seen this movie years ago and remembered very little about it, to be honest with you, other than thinking it was a lot of fun. And so went back, just did a rewatch in the last couple of days to prepare to for this episode today. And yeah, we'll see if my opinion holds up on this one. So yeah, talking the Prowler. Real quick though, before we get started, a couple of reminders. Don't forget this weekend the Screamies are finally coming. This coming Saturday, I will be with Our Life in Horror with Critic After Dark. We're going to be doing the whole award thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of guests coming on, announcing the different awards. Yeah, it's going to be a blast. So this Saturday, the Screamies, do not forget. All right, let's get into The Prowler from 1981. Quick tagline for the film: If you think you're safe, you're dead wrong. Brief synopsis: 30 years after a murder on the night of Avalon Bay's graduation dance, the Sleepy Town's teens meet grisly ends at the hands of a prowler once thought to be a jilted soldier home from war. The film was released June 26th, 1981, directed by Joseph Zito, screenplay by Neil Barbera and Glenn Leopold, produced by Joseph Zito and David Street, uh, cinematography by João Fernandes, edited by Joel Goodman, music by Richard Einhorn, distributed by Sandhorse Releasing Corp., runtime of 89 minutes, a $1 million budget. I could not find exact box office numbers, but from what I understand, it was less than $1 million. The movie did not do well at the theaters, and then since it's kind of developed, one of those cult followings we talk about so much. I feel like in horror movies. But let me stop there as always and talk cinematography, score, story for a moment. Cinematography, right off the bat. Um, I think the movie looks good. I've talked about it before. I love these early '80s slashers, just the look that they had. Tom Savini did the special effects. I love the special effects in this movie. I think we get some good shots. Yeah, I love that '80s vibe that's so present in this movie. If you're a fan of the '80s slashers, this movie definitely fits that tone. I mean, it's right there. It looks, yeah. So I like the way this movie looks. I think get some good shots. Love the special effects. Cinematography is good. The score, I really like the score for this movie. I think it's not overwhelming. It doesn't just stand out maybe as being incredibly memorable like some other, horror things like Halloween and stuff like that. But I think it's good. I think it fits very well, and adds to scenes like it. I feel like a good score is supposed to. So I appreciate the score. And for the most part, I like the story. There's a few things here and there that I have some minor issues with that I'll talk about whenever we do the plot walkthrough. But overall, I like the story as well. I mean, it's pretty basic. There's nothing, uh, too crazy in this, I don't feel like. But I do think that a couple of things get lost throughout this. And like I said, we'll talk about that when we walk through the plot. But overall, yeah, cinematography's good, score's really good, like the story, special effects are amazing. That's one of the strong suits I feel like of this movie. Tom Savini did an outstanding job, as always, on this one. Cast for the film, I'll just name a couple of names here. I don't think there's anybody incredibly well known. Vicky Dawson, Christopher Goutman, Cindy Weintraub, maybe how you say that, I'm not sure. Farley Granger. I'll stop there. Again, not a lot of big names in this film, or any big names that I really think are recognized in this movie. But let's talk for a moment about the cast and the characters. So um, I feel like the cast does a good job. I don't think there's any bad performances in this movie. Again, there's nothing that's just absolutely, mind blowing, Oscar worthy performances either. But I feel like overall, everyone does a good job and does what they're supposed to do. There might be a couple of spots here and there where it's not as great, where maybe some things weren't delivered as well. But overall, I feel like it's pretty good. Um, However, my first issue with this movie, and it's not major. I mean, it's a minor issue. It's something that I've talked about before. If you listen to some of my other episodes, I feel like horror is better if you have certain characters that you can really get behind. I mean, that's when you look at movies like Halloween, one of the things that everybody thinks so much about, and I keep mentioning Halloween because, late 70s, early 80s, that kind of thing, but um, how much you get behind the final girl in that movie, and Jamie Lee Curtis and Laurie Strode. Um, I think when there's at least one and two or three characters that you really find yourself invested in and 100% behind, that helps. Even if you're watching the movie for the kills, it's still nice to have some characters that you're really rooting for. And I feel like this movie, that's one of its weaknesses. I don't feel like any of these characters really stand out as being, I don't know, maybe they weren't developed enough, but I don't feel like that's really 100% the issue either. I just, that could be it. Maybe not quite developed enough for some of them. Um, but yeah, I just didn't find myself 100% behind any of these characters. There wasn't anyone that, watching this movie, I'm like, oh, I really hope they live. I just didn't have that attachment to any of these characters. So that's one of the weak points for me. But again, it's kind of minor. I mean, again, primarily, I feel like you watch a movie like this a lot of times for the kills, and some of the maybe tension, that kind of thing. So the fact that there's, in my opinion, not any incredibly likable characters, not a huge thing, because it's not the biggest thing that you watch this type of movie for, but it would have helped. So yeah, and again, not that anybody did a bad job. I think everyone was fine. Maybe they just weren't fleshed out enough as we got into things. But not a lot of production notes for this film at all. As I mentioned, Tom Savini did the special effects for this movie. The movie was released internationally, titled Rosemary's Killer. I really don't have any behind the scenes production notes for this. I did look, there just wasn't really a lot out there. Um, Other than this movie gets compared to My Bloody Valentine, which came out the same year. And I can see that there's a similarity in that with this film. But, and I'll be talking about that later this week. So, but yeah, not a lot out there as far as production notes. So let's go ahead and get into the plot and start to walk through this thing. We open up with some news clips of soldiers returning from World War II. We also then hear a woman whose name is Rosemary, who is basically reading a letter that she has written to her boyfriend, who is away in the war currently, breaking up with him through this letter. And then 1 year later, we see this graduation dance. Rosemary is with her new boyfriend. I believe his name is Roy. I didn't write that down, but with her new boyfriend, they leave the dance. They go out to this gazebo by the lake, and then we see this figure dressed in these this like army combat uniform, attacking them and impaling them with a pitchfork. And then as he leaves a rose there. This is a good opening. I mean, it's again nothing outstanding here. Pretty basic. I do think the kill is good. I like the shot we get of the pitchfork initially going through the guy and then into Rosemary. Yeah, the special effects here are really good. Like I said, I love Tom Savini's work, so that's the plus really here for the opening. And we're just setting up the story, right? We're just kind of letting us know what's coming, because you immediately wonder if this is, or I think you're immediately led to believe that this is her boyfriend that she broke up with. He's returned now and he's in his army uniform and he's killed her and her current, her new boyfriend. So, I mean, that's what's kind of being set up here. And yeah, I mean, it's a fine opening. It's good. It's just, pretty basic, but it's fine. We then cut to 35 years later, and now the students there at this same school are preparing for a graduation dance. It's the first one they've had since those murders back in 1945. We meet our primary character for this movie. Her name is Pam. She's visiting with her boyfriend, Mark, who is a deputy there. And while she's visiting with him at the police station, she hears report about a prowler who had attacked and I believe killed someone nearby and then escaped. The deputy, again, his name is Mark, is visiting with the sheriff, who is about to leave for a fishing trip. We get some interaction there. Sheriff acts a little weird at times. We also meet a couple of other side characters. There's this guy that runs a store. He seems okay, but he has a guy named Otto that's working for him that also comes across as a little bit awkward. I almost feel like what we're doing here is primarily trying to paint some red herrings. because again, we're led to believe early on that this is Rosemary's boyfriend that has returned, that is killing people, and now we're kind of given a hint that maybe the sheriff's a little awkward, this Otto guy's a little awkward. Um, yeah, we then cut to some of the girls who are getting ready for uh, this dance. We also get a shot during this as we're kind of cutting from a lot of different things of someone putting on the army fatigues. We can't, see who they are, but putting on this army combat uniform. And then as most of the girls leave, one of the girls, her name is Sherry, she stays behind. The girls also mention a older gentleman, and we'll get into him, Mr. Chatham, who appears to be watching them a lot from a window across the hall. So kind of another red herring there, although it's revealed that he's pretty old and he's in a wheelchair. So um, yeah, we're left with Sherry. She's taking a shower. We get a little bit of a, not necessarily a jump scare, but kind of a setup there where her boyfriend Carl, we see that someone's in the house and coming up towards her in the shower, but then we discover it's not a killer, it's Carl. And after little playful banter there, Carl goes to get undressed to then join Sherry in the shower, but before he gets attacked and stabbed through the head with a bayonet by someone in this army uniform, and then Sherry is killed in the shower with a pitchfork. Couple of really good kills here. I think this is where the score is really good. I appreciate the score here in this section. I think there's a little bit of tension, but I think these two kills are great. They look so good. Kind of get an odd shot of Carl's eyes there towards the end of his kill, but other than that, I think the kill looks really good, and I think Sherry's kill in the shower looks really good. So, for the early parts of this movie, the two things that are standing, or really the thing that is standing out to me the most here is the special effects. I think they're so good for these movies. I love these practical effects, and Tom Savini's a master at it. So I'm really enjoying the kills early on in this film, which again I think is primarily what you watch a lot of these kind of movies for. So the kills are really good. Um, Appreciating the score, and some attempts at tension and attempts of painting some red herrings so that we're not, we think we know who the killer is, but we're not 100% sure either. From there, we then cut to the dance. Mark has told Sherry earlier that he'll come to the dance and see her, and so Mark arrives at the. I'm sorry, I said Sherry. He tells Pam that he'll be there. So he does arrive, and Pam sees him and motions him over. But as he's going towards her, another girl named Lisa pulls Mark out onto the dance floor. Mark seems pretty happy to dance with her, and so they're dancing, and you can tell Pam's pretty upset by this. Mark finally goes over to talk to Pam. They have a little bit of an argument, and then this Lisa girl bumps into Mark, causing him to spill his drink on Pam. And so Pam then leaves to go back to the dorm to change clothes. And then we get a pretty good scene here. We cut and see where the killer leaves a rose on Sherry's body in the shower. And then we see Pam in the dorm, and she hears the shower running, but she doesn't go look. So she thinks that Pam thinks Sherry is still in there, and we also see where the killer is coming. And I think there's some good tension here. We then, Sherry, Pam, excuse me, I keep wanting to go back to the dead girl. Pam finally sees the killer, and he ends up chasing her through some of the dorms. I think we get some good shots here, where she's trying to get out of a door that's locked and having a hard time, and he's approaching. I mean, it's all pretty basic stuff we've seen a lot, but I think it's done pretty well in this movie. I think the combination of some of the shots we get, and again, the score here is good. A little bit of tension in this chase scene. Pam ends up running into this older man as she gets outside finally. Major Chatham, I believe is what his name is, in this wheelchair, and he kind of grabs a hold of her for a minute. Kind of an odd scene. We don't really know why he grabs a hold of her. She finally is able to pull away from him and then runs into Mark again. Mark goes to look around, and here's some decent tension, I guess, because we're cutting around. We're seeing Mark looking around, trying to see what's going on. We also see the killer walking. Mark goes into the dorm and looks a little bit. He almost enters the room where Sherry and her boyfriend have been killed, but something causes him to hesitate, and he doesn't go in there. So he's, not really sure what's going on still. Mark and Pam then end up going together to Major Chatham's house to talk to him. We do see some shots that the killer is also in this house, which again is, we're if you're wondering why is the killer in this guy's house, are they trying to paint this older man, as something, or is the older man being killed? Just kind of some mystery there, I guess. But Pam finds some old pictures. She also finds a dead Rose. Pam learns that Rosemary, who was killed at the beginning of the film, was Major Chatham's daughter. So again, possibly trying to set him. But I feel like there's a couple of times where maybe that's kind of what the movie is trying to hint at. That maybe he is the killer. But again, with him being this older guy in a wheelchair, it just doesn't completely work. But again, it does kind of make you wonder a little bit there. So some decent tension in these scenes, kind of revealing some things, setting some things up. Not bad. The movie seems to be going really well. I like the pacing for the film as well. And yeah, I'm on board. I'm really still enjoying this at this time. Mark then believes that whoever it was that attacked Pam could be this Prowler that they heard about earlier. And so he and Pam go back to the dance to warn people. They end up talking with one of the chaperones there, and the chaperone makes an announcement that everyone needs to stay in the building, that there's possibly a Prowler on the loose, and that it's being investigated. So everyone stay inside while that's being looked into. Lisa, she does leave right before the announcement for everyone to stay inside and go swimming in a nearby pool. And then we get another really good scene here. I think, again, we get some good tension. The killer, the Prowler, is outside there with Lisa and attacks her while she's in the pool. We get some good buildup, I feel like, here. Again, get good tension here. The kill is good. He slits her throat, comes up behind her as she's trying to get out of the pool and slits her throat. I also think we get some good shots here, kind of like underwater shots after he slit her throat, where we kind of see her body convulsing a little bit and then the blood still coming out of her throat down into the water. I think the shot was really good. Love the way they did this one. Back inside the dance, Lisa's boyfriend, who has had quite a bit to drink, is disrupting things, and Mark ends up arresting him. The chaperone, Allison, she goes outside to look for Lisa to see where she may have went, but she is also, after she sees some blood around the pool, she's then attacked by the killer, stabbed in the throat. Again, another good kill. Score working here. We get a shot to a couple who's gone down into the basement and they're making out. Nothing really happens to them. That just kind of gets left alone. The store owner that I mentioned earlier, he then approaches Mark and tells Mark that there are kids partying in the cemetery. And so Mark and Pam go to the cemetery to try to figure out what's happening there. Mark finds an open grave. We get a shot of Otto. For some reason, he's out there in the cemetery. We kind of get a scare where he, startles Pam. But Pam and Mark then, in this open grave, they end up finding Lisa's body in a casket. And so, now the tensions of, now they know that people are actually being killed, not just kind of stalked. So Mark tries to call the sheriff, but he's unable to reach the sheriff at the lodge. We, I guess, get a little bit of comedy there in the interaction between Mark and the service person there at the lodge, just the way that's handled. It's a little bit funny. Mark also calls the state police, but he discovers that the Prowler from the earlier report has been caught and was caught before Lisa's kill. So they know that that's not who is doing this now. Pam decides that she believes that whoever killed Rosemary and Roy, all those years ago, is back and killing people now. They go back to the Chatham's house. Again, we get shots here of while they're looking around in different places. The killer is also in the house. Score is good here. We get some tension here. The lights go out there in the house while they're in there. The killer ends up attacking Mark and knocking him out. Pam finds another rose. She also finds a skeleton. We get another scene here similar to what we had in the dorm of the killer chasing Pam around in the house. I also saw a scene in this movie, and I don't know which came out first, whether it was this or whether it was Friday the 13th 2. But, with Friday the 13th 2, there's a scene where Jenny is under the bed, and the rat runs under there with her and scares her while Jason is looking for her. We get a very similar scene here. Pam is hiding under something, and there's a rat that comes up while she's under there, which startles her while the Prowler is looking around for her. The killer is looking for her. Reminded me of Friday the 13th, too. I don't know which came out first. I would have to go back and look. But I wonder if one of them, kind of pulled this from the other, basically, because it's a very similar scene, in my opinion. The killer ends up chasing Pam again. Right as it looks like he's about to catch her, Otto shows up, again, kind of out of nowhere with a gun. He ends up shooting the killer, but the killer recovers pretty quickly and shoots and kills Otto. And then Pam and the killer have a bit of a battle here. Pam, though, is able to, in the process of them fighting, for some reason, the killer seems to just get really, I don't know, confused and struggling, and ends up taking off his own mask, and it's revealed to be the sheriff. And then Pam is able to get the shotgun up under his chin and shoots and kills the sheriff. Um, Throughout all of this here, I felt like there's a little bit of tension. I think the score is really good. I like the way this is done and things. I don't understand how Otto keeps popping out of, why was Otto in the cemetery? Why was he in this house? That was kind of weird to me, the way they just kept bringing his character in out of nowhere. I thought it was very odd the way the killer kind of seemed to freak out and take off his own mask. And I feel like, while the movie wants us to believe that it's this guy who Rosemary broke up with in the beginning, I feel like I figured out who the killer was a little over halfway through the film. Because again, they paint the sheriff as a little bit of a red herring, and then when you've got the whole thing where, and again, it's kind of because of the desk clerk, but Mark is not able to reach him and actually talk to the sheriff. I don't know. To me, it jumped out as a real possibility that the sheriff was the killer. But then they don't really give us any story as to why. So we find out here, like I said, that it was the sheriff who was killing people, but there's never an explanation as to why. And so here's what I was saying earlier about there are some things that get lost in this movie. While overall, I think it's done very well. Again, I like some of the shots. I love the kills and the special effects. I like the score. There are some moments of tension. There's plot holes as well for me here, because again, why is Otto just popping up in these random places and sometimes scaring Pam and then also coming to save her? And you get a very odd moment there. I mentioned that Otto shoots the sheriff, and or shoots at the time we just think it's a killer, but shoots the killer, and the killer's down for a few moments, and then there's this really odd and kind of long moment where Otto and Pam just keep looking at each other. And you're kind of getting the impression of how thankful Pam is and how much she appreciates Otto for saving her, but it's just done very weird. Here's where I think maybe the performances weren't as great, because I don't know what they were going for here and the way this was done. And I just thought it looked, like I said, very odd, and it didn't make sense to me. It was almost like Pam was suddenly attracted to Otto and was because he saved her. I mean, I don't know. It was just very, very weird to me the way this was done. And yeah, so yeah, just some plot holes there that I don't understand. The whole Otto thing. Why was the sheriff killing people? Why did he freak out and take his own mask off? Just some weird things happen here kind of at the end of the film. And then it gets even more weird for the very end, because we then get a shot of Mark taking Pam back to the dorm. Pam goes inside while Mark is talking to another police officer outside. Back inside the dorm, Pam finally finds Sherry and Carl's body. And when she's looking at their bodies in the shower, it almost seems like for a minute like Carl is still alive, even though his eyes are completely white. He seems to just kind of come to, and he grabs Pam for a few moments. I guess it's supposed to be more like for a one last jump scare type of thing, but it was very weird. And then as Pam pulls away from him, then he kind of slumps back down and appears to be dead again. I'm assuming this was supposed to be just for one last jump scare. I thought it was very awkward as well, the way they did it. So the ending of this movie bothers me, basically, after everything that I've just tried to sum up for you. I really liked the movie, mixed up movie and film there. I really like this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. Love the kills, like the score, like the tension. I've said all those things already. But some of the plot holes towards the end hurt it a little bit. I think this ending is kind of silly, to be honest with you. I don't think it worked. But yeah, that's The Prowler from 1981. And so then going back and trying to rate this film and give an overall opinion of it, it's a little bit tough, because honestly, as I was watching this movie and it building up, like I said, I didn't remember anything about this film. It had been so long since I'd seen it. Going through the movie and watching this the other night, I was really enjoying this. And at one point, I was like, this could be an 8. I don't think I would go as high as a 9, but this could be an 8, because I really am enjoying this movie. But then just that ending hurts it again, because there's things that don't get tied up and you don't understand. and there's some very awkward scenes that don't make sense. So the ending hurts the film a little bit. Not so much that it pulls my rating down tremendously, but it does drop it some. I think I would give The Prowler from 1981 a 7 out of 10. It's still a really good film. I really enjoy it. It's a good representation, I feel like, of these 80s slashers, these early 80s slashers specifically, that I've talked about how much I like, and that I know are, have a huge following out there. There's so many people that love the 80s slashers, and I think this movie is a good representation and belongs in that category as some of the really good ones. Just wasn't a big fan of the ending, and the fact that not everything, I don't always need everything completely wrapped up in a tight little bow, but at least give me an idea of what was happening. And I don't think this film did this. What was the motive for the sheriff? Why was Otto popping around? What was the odd moment between Otto and Pam all about? Yeah, just a few things there. And then the silly little last scare attempt hurt the film some, but overall it's still very enjoyable. I definitely recommend watching it if you haven't seen it yet. So yeah, for me, The Prowler from 1981, 7 out of 10. Now I want to know what you think. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think about it. Are you a fan, not a fan? You love Tom Savini special effects in here. On the Blu-ray that I watched, there's like a 10-minute bonus feature that's just them doing a lot of these special effects. It was pretty cool. So yeah, give me your thoughts on The Prowler. Hit the like button today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. There's a lot of fun episodes coming up. Rob and Kaylee from That Horror Couple are going to be back on with me in a couple of days, and we're going to continue with the Halloween franchises. We're going to talk about Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. So that's coming in a couple of days. Later this week, like I said, I have an episode coming out on My Bloody Valentine. And then the Screamies, like I said at the beginning, that's coming this Saturday. So a lot of fun stuff coming. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Like I said, please hit that like button on the video today. Hit the hype button. Leave me some comments. I love reading the comments that people leave. So leave me some comments. Follow me on social media. I'm pretty much on everything out there. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, X. I have a letterbox. Just search Sean's Horror Corner and you'll be able to find any of that stuff. So again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe, like, hype, comment, share, all the things. And yeah, I'll be back in a couple of days with Rob and Kaylee to talk about Halloween 4. I'll see you soon.